Anim Bojo and Angeni Indigenous Gawin and Dodemi Si, Mama Wanene Kwe and Dao, Penatangwashin and Donjaba, Meanwhile Noga Jawaning in Dada. So hello, my name is Angeni Lovelady. I am a former Trent grad and now I am the project coordinator for the First People's House of Learning. The Two-Spirit program coordinator position was created after my director, Don Lavelle Harvard, realized that there wasn't a whole lot of support specific to Two-Spirited or 2S LGBTQ Indigenous students. And as an undergraduate student, I had been doing a lot of advocacy work. I had organized a lot of panels, a lot of speaking engagements, various programs to bring that awareness to Trent. And so wanting to expand on that, Don created this position to focus both on that educational piece, but to also expand into direct student support in the Two-Spirit circles for Two-Spirit students to gather, to talk about any issues they were facing, to meet with me one-on-one, if there was anything happening in the classroom or other spaces at Trent. And I've actually collaborated with local partners, so the Nogaji-Wanong Friendship Center and the Lovesick Lake Native Women's Association. Together, we've kind of combined efforts to create a more fulsome program so that not only are we supporting Two-Spirit students, but we're connecting them to community members or to other organizations that also offer support. Two-Spirit is a word that was created in the 90s to replace former slurs or derogatory words that were used to describe Indigenous people who were LGBTQ, who were maybe not representative of that male-female binary. And when we look back into history, kind of pre-colonization, a lot of Indigenous communities had third, fourth, fifth genders. They had words to describe different gender roles or people who were of one gender but took on a different gender role, or who were in same-sex relationships or had multiple partners, or any variety of sexuality or gender expression. And when you think of it, like hundreds of nations with hundreds of understandings with these hundreds of words, it's really hard to kind of capture all of that under one word, which is Two-Spirit. But how I like to describe it is that Two-Spirit it's an umbrella word to describe those many experiences from an Indigenous worldview and encompassing those Indigenous roles in community. So it can cover sexuality, it can cover gender roles, or it can just cover expression. To work with Two-Spirit students and LGBTQ+ Indigenous students is really powerful for me because it means that I get to be the support that I needed when I was younger, but didn't necessarily exist when I was, growing up, when I was learning about myself, when I was trying to find who I was. And so being able to offer that to students is incredibly powerful. It's very healing for myself too, but it also means that I get to build connections with other resources that exist in Canada, in Ontario, even just in our community here in Peterborough. And we get to build those connections and kind of build a foundation for further support in the future. So it's getting to see those one-on-one interactions and seeing how people, start to explore different names or gender expressions, or start to dress differently, or start to support each other on those journeys. But I know that after they leave here, that they're gonna have that support elsewhere too, which is really awesome. When I was younger, I was very afraid of dressing how I wanted to dress, or I didn't want to correct people when they misgendered me, or any of those things. It was a very self-protective kind of mindset. But in mentoring Two-Spirit students or LGBTQ+ Indigenous students, I feel more powerful in myself because I want to mirror to them, or I want to show them how it could be if we didn't have to fear the reactions of other people, if we didn't have to, self-censor ourselves and our identities when we're walking through the world. And so, I don't know, I feel a lot more confident now doing this work. I have a deeper understanding of my own identity in helping other people find their own path to their identity. But the students I work with directly, even if they're not confident to explore themselves or their gender identity or their sexuality in the wider public, they're a lot more confident, at least around FPHL spaces or in the Two-Spirit circles. They feel very empowered to help each other out. You know, they're offering to take each other to clothing stores to help find clothes that, you know, best fit their expression. So I've noticed that among that group, there's a surge in confidence with them. But with the wider Trent community, I'm constantly being approached and asked questions about what Two-Spirit is, how can people support, what activities are out there, what events are happening. A lot of people are really excited to access spaces or events like the Two-Spirit Powwow, or they want to reach out to Two-Spirit Society. There's just this eagerness to learn more and to be supportive. I've found on campus now that people actually know what Two-Spirit is and where to find that information. When I was an undergraduate student, I read for the first time in a novel someone whose lived experience was like mine. A Two-Spirit youth who grew up Indigenous, who, you know, went through all these struggles, but then also went through this very beautiful journey of self-discovery. And so being in this role is kind of like that yet again. Having that intersection of, you know, being Indigenous and being queer or Two-Spirit, for me, when I was growing up, it was scary, right? It's what I've heard from a lot of other Two-Spirit people is that you kind of feel like you have to hide one aspect of your identity. So you either have to kind of hide your indigeneity and not really access culture, or you have to hide your gender and sexuality and hope that people don't figure out that you're different or that you're part of that community. And so embodying this role of, you know, being Indigenous within the Indigenous Student Support department, and then also working with the LGBTQ+ community, it's powerful for me because there's not a lot of roles like this. And it's powerful for students because they don't get to see that intersection very often. At least in a way that's celebrated, in a way that garners attention in a positive way. With the Two-Spirit circles, we've kind of tried to expand to the urban center. So with the Friendship Center, they kind of cover the urban Indigenous population. And Lovesick Lake Native Women's Association is more rural, so they're outside of the Peterborough City Center. But we want to expand even further. We want to invite local First Nations to come and join us. We want to make it easier for folks here at Trent to access services in Toronto, like the Two-Spirited Peoples of the First Nations. I want to bring more Two-Spirit elders here to campus and try to offer some more Two-Spirit specific cultural supports, such as ceremonies or cultural workshops. Don't be afraid to use your voice. And I mean, that goes to any student coming here to Trent or navigating the world anywhere else. For me, I was very afraid to use my voice when I was a student. I didn't bring forward concerns when inappropriate topics were brought up in the classroom or in student groups, or if a professor said something that was really harmful. I never brought that up, and so they never got addressed. And so those professors have now since retired, and you know, they don't get to know any better. The students in that classroom don't know any better because I didn't speak up. Keep safety in mind, of course, but don't be afraid to access help when you need it. First People's House of Learning is here to support you with that if you need to, or there's plenty of other spaces on campus where you can access support. Always use your voice, speak up, ask for what you need and ask for help and call out people who are being harmful. This campus is such a beautiful space, it's got such a beautiful community, and there are many, many people here at Trent who would be willing to support you and to help you navigate those situations.